Shalom. Baruch Haba, Koim Lee Anthony. Hello and welcome. They call me Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sarid for our weekly Torah teaching on the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. We are so excited for him. We give all praise, honor, and esteem to Yahuwah Elohim for the great wisdom and understanding he has given us here at Sarid to share with you in his word. To the Kodashim out there, I trust that all is well with you. As we continue on this journey, I'd like to give a welcome to those who are joining us here for the first time, Baruch Haba. As we pick up from last week, death and dead things have a very profound effect in our lives, especially in how we relate to it. Here in this lesson, Yahuwah Elohim has taken the time to open our eyes to some very important things during this time of death that I'm sure that most people don't know, and many more don't even care. And that's because so much has led us astray in world religion. But here the word of Yahuwah is quietly gathering his people as his word lines up to witness for itself these things that we must do. So let's take a look now. Timothy, if you're ready, it's Bonaki. Let's go. As we begin in the wilderness, Bamidbar, chapter 18 will begin at verse 12. Followed by Devarim, chapter 28 will begin in verse 57, and the witness in Yochanan, chapter 11, starting at verse 40. Now, because of the length of the verses and the way they interact, we'll have to survey this one in the next frame. All the best of the oil, all the best of the new wine and the grain. Her placenta, which comes out from between her feet, and her children whom she bears, for she will eat them secretly. Yahushua said to her, "Did I not say to you, if you would believe, you would see the esteem of Yahuwah?" So this is all good stuff here. All the best of the oil. Its share is fresh oil, shining, pure, and the verb means to press out and glisten. All the best of the new wine, tirosh. Fresh new wine, freshly pressed wine, from a root used in the sense of expulsion. Expulsion is the process of forcing something out of the body. Definition identifies the separation of dependency in the womb to the dependency as the new birth of the baby and its need for nurturing here. It means to seize, dispossess, take possession of, to inherit. Impoverish and be an heir. This is seen as her placenta, something that supports the life of the newborn and is pressed out and glistens. Shilyah, here the word used, H7988, is afterbirth. The verb means to distract or to draw out, to clear out completely. Seen in Devarim when it says, which comes out from between her feet. Regal, H7272, this word is used and has in parentheses next to the definition of the word, anthropomorphic. Means having human characteristics. So this is something that is relatable to human characteristics. The verb means to be a talebearer, to go about and teach. This is seen in what the salvation of Yahuwah is saying down in Yochanan. Yahushua, his namesake, begins to speak to her about the birthing process into the next life. This is the best of it. The oil and wine are things that are poured out. So he pours out these words to her. Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the esteem of Yahuwah? What she is to see is identified as the grain in the verse, in the line above. H1715 is dagah. It is wheat, corn, or cereal. Grain, small things that produce in numbers. The verb means to multiply and increase. This is her children whom she bears. The woman bear the children. That's how we get here in this life. This is childbirth. What she is about to witness is the birthing process after this life is ended. For she will eat them secretly. Yahushua is speaking to the woman, who is Martha, saying, you. It was something spoken between them. It was in secret, carefully hidden. Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the esteem of Yahuwah? Doxa here, the word for esteem, H1391, is the majesty and excellence, the preeminence of Yahuwah as supreme ruler, majesty in the sense of absolute perfection, perfection of his power. Yahuwah Elohim is doing this. This is not anything identified by what they were calling on then, so as to give credit to it. They had other opinions and views about what happens after death, much like today's world order. This is the esteem of Yahuwah. And that's why he made this statement, to get those things straight. Their first fruits which they offer to Yahuwah, I have given them to you. For lack of everything in the siege and desperate straits. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was laying. Their first fruits is the reshit, the choicest of the first, the best part, the sum of all the first fruits. Reshit, which they offer to Yahuwah. I have given them to you for lack of everything in the siege and desperate straits. So this sentence is continual, as Yahuwah is mentioned once in the top line of survey and seen as I at the beginning of the statement that starts in Bamidbar and continues down in Devarim. I have given them to you for lack of everything in the siege and desperate straits. His name is lacking in Devarim, noticed only as the one speaking when he says, I have given them to you. This you is Yahushua, the clean man who gave the order to remove the stone already. Seen only as the reason they were moving the stone in the first place. You know, for these lines of survey, this is seen as lack. The first fruits or reshit of what they offer to Yahuwah, the visible manifestation of it. That's what a reshit is. An old reshit is the visible manifestation. They are acting on the command Yahushua gave to them. This is the first fruits of that action, to see the esteem of Yahuwah. He says, I have given them to you. They are the ones that took away the stones. This is seen as more lack of everything. They took the stones away and they're not even recognized. Seen only as they and them. he has given them to Yahushua. The first fruits of their actions are seen also in the siege and desperate straits that can be found in this footnote. So let's look at this interruption they make here with this footnote. And this is what they did with the footnote here. The NU text omits from the place where the dead man was laying or lying. So by now we know that the NU are screw-ups through and through. No, they're screw-ups. This is just some more lack of knowledge going on here now. So I'm not even going to pull that verse up to see if they did it. It says here they omitted a part of the verse. And I believe they did it because it's the most important part of the esteem of Yahuwah. From the place where the dead man was laid. This omission is seen in Devarim as more lack. And this is everything. In fact, the most important thing. These people have not understood the most elementary part of this miracle. You know, nothing gets done without the dead man. He's the main part of the story. It's that simple. The sentence accounts for the siege, matzor. Siege works, enclosure. The verb means to be shut up, confined, and secure. This is where the dead man was laying. You know, and the desperate straits, matzor, means to constrain, to bring into straits. Strait is used in reference to a situation characterized by a specified degree of trouble or difficulty. This is the difficulty of removing the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. It was hard work. They were constrained to it. Also, what's important to note here is the word in the top line of this survey for offer, which they offer to Yahuwah. That word there is Nathan. It speaks to this as well. H54:14 means to give, set, or be issued, to be provided and permitted to be published and ordered. The first fruit is what was first published. Whatever was first written on this account. That is what they omitted. So let's just get them up out of here. Nonsense. Whatever first ripe fruit is in their land, which they bring to Yahuwah, shall be yours, in which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. And Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, I thank you that you have heard me. Whatever first ripe fruit, the Bikor is here. H1096, it is the first of the crops and fruit that ripened. The bread of the new grain offered at Shavuot. The verb of Bikor means to bear early, new fruit. Also, to be born first. Fruit that is in their land. Eretz, H776. Both the land of Yisrael and the land Yah sees as everlasting, where Elohim dwells. Solid, firm, and unlikely to change. The verb form is used there. Which they bring to Yahuwah shall be yours. They cleared the way that brought him to the prayer. The word for bring is boa, and boa means to go in, means to enter and to cause to come. They were the reason the way was cleared that brings about his prayer as an offering to Yahuwah. They brought him to that. Yahuwah said, "It shall be yours." Yahushua is seen receiving this in the survey below. The first ripe fruit is seen before he begins to speak to Yahuwah over this stressful situation. Down below, Yahushua, he lifted up his eyes, an offering of acknowledgement. The eyes there, the mental faculties. He got his mind right first. In which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. This is continuation again, so that the great presence of Yahuwah is seen in all the lines, culminating down below in Yochanan with Yahushua. And so it was written, in which your enemy, Oyebecha, personal and national enemies, it's people that were scattered about there, also seen as there and they in these lines of survey. Enemies because of disbelief. They shall besiege you. You know that, or they shall distress you. H6693 is soak. Soak means to constrain and compel or force someone to follow a particular course of action. To bind tightly together. This is the lifting of the eyes and the speaking of the words together. Okay, seeing the word fulfill itself. It's binded up together, bound tightly, as it reads in the prayer. And Yahushua lifted up his eyes and said, "Ab, I thank you that you have heard me." It was ripe fruit lifted up to Yahuwah. You know, the distress was at all the gates. His eyes, the understanding, and his speaking. These are the gates noted in the verse of Devarim. An entranceway or meeting place for reasoning and reckoning. It was between you and me. He was talking to Ab. I thank you that you have heard me and not them. Most didn't believe. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this Torah that are written in this book. And Yahushua says, and I know that. I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this. I said this. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it, as we survey the lines here. That word for clean is tahor. Tahor means clean. H2889 means clean ceremonially, morally, ethically, clean, pure. The verb means to purify and be made clean. Also to perform the ceremony of cleansing and purify oneself. He is presenting himself through this prayer as already clean. In your house, your is Yahushua here in this line of survey. And you down in Devarim. And finally, the one speaking below in Yochanan. In fact, the whole conversation is between Yahuwah and Adonai. The house, the word there for house, bayit, H1004, is a dwelling place for household affairs. It is figuratively used of bodies of people, seen here as everyone in the top line of survey. Mhm. Down below in Yochanan, it's also seen when he says, because of the people who are standing by. All these are in the house, but they are not all clean. May eat it as we continue. What is to be eaten is seen in Devarim as something that is to be carefully observed, and they are written in this book. Not here in Devarim. Yahuwah speaks first in Bemidbar. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. He does not give instructions in this book called Devarim on how to be clean and who is clean. That is found in chapter 19 of this book in the top line called Bemidbar. This is the one that it's talking about. We are carefully to observe all the words of this. Et chal debri hazot. The mark of the accusative is on those words. Et chal debri hazot. Then we have Torah that are written in this book. It is about the uncleanness of dead things. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this Torah, which are written in this book, is a warning and acknowledged as it reads in Yochanan, because of the people who are standing by. He said, I said this. So he gives instructions concerning this here. The mark of the accusative, as I mentioned, is here on all the words, et chal debri, and this. The word Torah, H8451, is a body of prophetic teaching and legal directives. As we begin to observe some things here concerning the age of HaMashiach, given by Yahuwah Elohim to Moshe. These are special laws for the Kohen to execute. The verb means to cast, lay, or shoot arrows at. To point out and show. To direct, instruct, and teach. To give instructions. It contains the laws that govern the people, directions for guidance, and instructions in righteousness. It dictated the customs and manners of the people. It lines up to point out and show the fulfillment of the Master's plan for the redemption of his creation through the good news of the flesh that lines up with his word. These are the words that I'm giving you here now to help you see what is going on with the dead man and what is to be eaten and how it relates to what we are to observe. Because down in Yochanan, Adonai says he knows this already. So that's why you always hear me. So now we're going to look at this scripture found in Bamidbar. Grab your scriptures, turn with me to Numbers chapter 19. Put it up here on the screen. Bamidbar chapter 19. Going to pull that up. We're going to look at this thing here. I have on the screen 1 through 13. Just going to go through the whole chapter with you. Just going to read down and observe a few things. As believers, we should know. And then we're going to come back to this screen and do a recap on this part so as to observe carefully. Okay. Midbar chapter 19. Yahuwah is the chapter here following the witness that we're giving, and it's concerning some things that were set up in the wilderness by the original people that were established for the children coming back. Okay? We're going to see some similarities of what's going on here with the heifer. It's the woman. Now Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon, saying, "This is the Kukat of the Torah, which Yahuwah has commanded, saying, Speak to Bnei Yisrael, that they bring you a red heifer, without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never come. You shall give it to Eleazar the Cohen, that he may take it outside the camp, and it shall be slaughtered before him." So this means that Eleazar is next. Not then, but sometime at a future time, coming back with someone coming back with that name. And the name also is going to be slaughtered. You know, from Eleazar to Lazarus. And Eleazar the Cohen shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood 7 times directly in front of the Echel of meeting. It's the place where Yahuwah dwells here. It's his esteem. Then the heifer. Mark of the accusative here is on the heifer. This is in the story of somebody who believes. It's a female. This is Martha. Shall be burned, consumed in his sight. His understanding, Yahushua is here. It's going to be burned in his sight. Its hide, its flesh, and its blood. The mark of the accusative is on all of those here. So this is a believer. Okay? And this thing has everlasting life associated with it. And its awful shall be burned. So this is female in the verse, as we mentioned. And the Cohen shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet and cast them into the midst of the fire, burning the heifer. Okay? Then the Cohen shall wash his clothes, shall bathe in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. The Cohen shall be unclean until evening. Then here in this verse 7 begins a transition here. So we're in the wilderness. Yahuwah is establishing this thing, and what's being established is being established in the Shemaim. Okay? Begins the transition. And the one who burns it shall wash his clothes in water, bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. Then in verse 9, then starts again. Here it picks up with the transition from the wilderness. Then a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and store them outside the camp in a clean place, and they shall be kept for the Edah of Bnei Yisrael, for the water of purification. It is for purifying from sin. Okay, it's a transition thing going on here. And the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be clean until evening. It shall be a kukwat olam to Bnei Yisrael and to the stranger who dwells among them. The mark of the accusative is on the ashes and the clothes. So what's going on here at this point in these verses is to be carefully observed. So we will look at verse 9 and 10 because of this kukwat here. That is being fulfilled, and we will look at it as it lines up in another frame to bring into fulfillment those things that are written concerning this transition here now. The rest of this, as I continue reading, is for all believers in Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. And it does not discriminate. So let's carefully observe this. I had on the screen 1 through 13 if you're taking notes. I'm just going to read the whole thing and see how this affects us here now. Verse 11, is he who touches the dead body of anyone shall be unclean 7 days. Okay, so after everything is set up, here it begins to give instructions. We're going to go down to verse 22. I'm just going to go through the whole chapter there. He shall purify himself with water on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. Then he will be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, he will not be clean. So you have to come and get it. Here you have to ask for these ashes that are set up. They're set up as belief. Okay? Whoever touches the body of anyone who has died and does not purify himself defiles the Mishkan of Yahuwah. Here the mark of the accusative is on the Mishkan. So this is for the children that are coming back now, still in effect here. That person shall be cut off from Yisrael, from believing in Elohim. He shall be unclean because the water of purification was not sprinkled on him. His uncleanness is still on him. So we don't want to be cut off from having spent life believing in him, and he's provided a way for us that should be carefully observed. Yahuwah understands the grieving process, and these things do happen, okay? But he provides atonement in it. Verse 14, this is the Torah. When a man dies in a tent, all who come into the tent and all who are in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. And every open vessel which has no cover fastened on it is unclean. So this is a spiritual thing going on here now. Whoever in the open field touches one who is slain by a sword, or who has died, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. So this pretty much covers everything dead here. Verse 17, and for an unclean person, they shall take some of the ashes of the heifer burnt for purification of sin, and running water shall be put on them in a vessel. This is your acknowledgement of uncleanness. You are they here in this teaching here, recognizing what has been laid up for you to get clean through some of the ashes of the burnt heifer for purification from sin. As a believer in Yahushua, who is the clean man here, he's talking about in the verse. A clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it on the tent, on all the vessels, on the persons who were there, or on the one who touched a bone, the slain, the dead, or a grave. This is your confession of where you have been and the beginning of the ceremony now. Okay? Beginning of the ceremony. Confession here. The clean person shall sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall purify himself, wash his clothes, and bathe in water, and at evening he shall be clean. Okay? This is the ceremony for you and prayers directed to Adonai Yahushua only. You are to pray only to him during these particular days. You do not pray to Yahuwah during these 7 days because you're unclean at all. Pray to the clean person. And you purify yourself, wash your clothes, and bathe in water. And at evening you shall be clean. Okay? Have to understand who you is in the verse, or who he's talking about in the verse. This is belief and clears your conscience. Then you can pray to Yahuwah Elohim after that time. Verse 20. But the man who is unclean and does not purify himself, that person shall be cut off from among the assembly, because he has defiled the Mikdash of Yahuwah. Here the mark of the accusative is on the Mikdash. So here children coming back, are seen defiling a most set apart place here now in your prayers. The water of purification has not been sprinkled on him. He is unclean. The word for sprinkle here means, the first one means to sprinkle. The second one means to leap for joy. This is the sprinkling here. Two definitions here. No joy. He's unclean. That's bad for you. It shall be a kukwat olam for them. He who sprinkles the water of purification shall wash his clothes, and he who touches the water of purification shall be unclean until evening. Okay? He who sprinkles the water of purification is the clean man, who is washing. The word for wash means to tread down your clothes, your garments, seen in the definition as treachery and deceit. Okay? Treachery and deceit. The word for sprinkle, as I mentioned, means to leap for joy. He's glad for you. And you'll be glad to have touched the water of purification. Looking in there. When all is said and done in this life, you'll be glad you did it. So do these things. Whatever the unclean person touches shall be unclean, and the person who touches it shall be unclean until evening. Only until evening. So this is reason for joy right there. It's reason for joy right there. So Yahuwah understands the grieving process, and he has made provisions through his word for believers in him to do these things. Don't do as Gentiles do. They don't recognize any of the Kodesh things of Yahuwah at all anyway. I have been sent, set the record straight, and we will continue to carefully observe now verse 9 and 10 as it lines up with the scriptures that we just finished reading. So as we come back here now to recap, we want to recap this verse. Everyone here in the verse are the people who are standing by in the line below in Yochanan. They just finished moving the stones from an unclean place. It is the place where the dead man is lying, which makes all of them unclean because of removing those stones. And if that wasn't enough, most of them went to the funeral and were in the house still grieving the loss. Yahushua never went to the funeral nor went into the house. Both Martha and Miriam went to meet him somewhere else when they heard he was coming. And according to this written account, that means Elazar most likely died in that house. He was sick already, which was still unclean, which is probably why he didn't go there. Yahushua came to the tomb instead. Not a grave site, as we know, but a clean place not far from it. Symbolically, where the ashes of the heifer are kept in a clean place. And according to this written account here now, the people standing by have done all the work and they are now unclean, which means they cannot even pray to Yahuwah and be heard for 7 days. They have to be purified by a clean man, someone who has not been defiled by dead things. And this is Yahushua, the only one talking to Yahuwah now. lifting up the first ripe fruit of the Bechor. He clears up any confusion as to who is praying and who is being heard by saying, I thank you that you have heard me. And here again saying, and I have known of these things to do so, that you always hear me. Okay? And because of that, every devoted thing in Yisrael shall be yours. That you may fear this great and awesome name, Yahuwah Elohim. That they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Elazar, come forth. The devoted things here, H2764 Karim, gives three definitions. And this is done to show the scope of what is given. It is a thing, it is a thing devoted. Okay, that is to say, to give all or a large part of one's time and resources to. Devotion is an emotion of the heart, something vowed, love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause. Worship and observance and prayers and observances. Every vile thing shall be yours. It will be done in his name. Karim is also a net. It's used of a net, a thing perforated. And this is earthly, something cast in order to catch something devoted for destruction. You will have charge of that. Everything else will be banned. Salvation is only through Yahushua only. It means to ban. Judgment, it shall be yours. And finally, Karim means to have been utterly destroyed, appointed to destruction, utter destruction, to exterminate, completely destroy. This is spiritual now because of the finality of it all, final judgment. It shall be yours. Yahushua and no other name, no other devoted thing in Yisrael. All who believe Elohim will prevail. Okay. That word for Yisrael, H3478, it is made up of two root words. 280, Sarah, means to contend and to have power, to contend with and exert oneself and persevere. So right now he's in contention with God, the manifestation of a demon. And this is by the word of Yahuwah. Okay, he allowed this, for separation of his people and the people belonging to something else, not devoted to him. And the other root is H410. It is Al. It means mighty one. In the end, Elohim will prevail, that you may fear this great and awesome name. Okay? Hanikbad Wehanora. That you may fear this great and awesome. The mark of the accusative is on the name, Et Hashem. The name that brings Chayim Olam, life. The verb form is used here, which means the actual name is supposed to follow. For those of you practicing the deception of Judaism. Hashem, what is the name? The mark of the accusative follows that. It is Aleph Tah and then Yahuwah. There's no hyphens there. The mark of the accusative is right before the great and awesome name of Yahuwah to show distinction between the two. He is talking to Yahushua. Okay? He's giving it all to him. Every devoted thing is given to him. Seen in Yochanan when he says that they may believe. So this is something that's going to change. It's going to cause a radical change in belief. They may believe that you sent me. Okay? You have the mark of the accusative right before Yahuwah. Now when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Elazar, come forth. Elazar here is an Hebrew name that means Elohim has helped, supported. And we see Elohim down as Yisrael, prevailing in Bamidbar. Okay? And of course, Yahuwah Elohim for the Adu. He prevails by supporting the call for Elazar to come forth. Yahuwah, the existing one. The verb of his name means to come into being, to come about, to come to pass, instituted and established. You know, life and every word used to describe him. Nothing dark about it at all. Okay, so here now we're going to observe a little bit closely verse 9 and 10 as it lines up here in this survey. I'm going to go to another screen here. Okay. So here we're going to get a little bit better understanding about the heifer and everything. All the best of the oil and the best of the new wine, the grain, her placenta which comes out from between her feet, and her children whom she bears, for she will eat them secretly. Okay. Then a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer. Gather up the ashes of the heifer. The man who is clean here, the mark of the accusative, is solo again. This is Yahushua. Right after that word clean there. All by himself. No hyping. It's talking about Yahushua here in the verse. He's the man who is clean. He shall gather. Esaf. H622 means to gather, and in parentheses it says to gather an individual into the company of others. So the second definition applies here. This is what's going on in the story. See, he's gathered Martha into the company of others. He shall gather up ashes. Apher, figuratively used of worthlessness. This is used, the root is used in the meaning to bestrew. Of the heifer. Heifer is a female cow. This is the woman he is specifically talking to regarding the stench she thought the body might have, having been in the tomb 4 days. And what is going on inside of her. And he bestrews it as belief, just scattered out there in the form of a question. Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the esteem of Yahuwah? It was because of that statement that she made. Okay? That word for heifer there, as we go through, we find out this heifer is this is a female cow. Okay? The word there means to frustrate, to be broken, and to crack through. So He's trying to get her to understand something here. He's trying to crack through here. These ashes. Ashes are seen as something related to belief. As we go to the next line of survey here. Their first fruits which they offer to Yahuwah, I have given them to you, for lack of everything in the siege and desperate straits, and store them outside the camp in a clean place. That word for store, yanach, means to be left or place. Store them outside. Kutz is from an unused root meaning to sever. So this is the transition going on here. People coming back to fulfill the rest of what was started. This is something happening outside of what was already established by the ancient people and well-pleasing to Yahuwah. Now severed and placed outside the camp. The word for camp there, Mechanah, is a camp, and it describes those who encamp, a company or body of people. The verb kana means to be shown favor, to be shown consideration. Okay? All right, and this place here in the camp, still well-pleasing, only in a clean place. Makom is a standing place, a clean, standing place. Okay? A descendant of the ancient people will be shown favor in a clean, standing place. This is away from the place where the dead man was laying, seen in the verse down in Yohanan. Okay? Seen in the verse down in Yohanan. So we looked at that footnote already. Whatever first ripe fruit is in their land, which they bring to Yahuwah, shall be yours, and which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. And they shall be kept for the adut of Bnei Yisrael, for the water of purification, for purification. It is for purifying from sin. Okay, you see another footnote here. That word for kept is mishmaret. It is a ceremonial function for the adut, the assembly gathered, or idat. It's the assembly gathered. Adut is what we get the written account here. Yahushua had his own assembly of people that were immersed in his name, and they made him king. As the word is already testified, the root is used in the original sense of fixture, aid. Talking about the adut, the aid. The verb is witness, the testimony, and evidence of things. Witnesses of the people, and the verb means to bear witness and to restore. To restore Bnei Yisrael, as we continue reading in this top line of survey here. All who believe that Elohim will prevail, for the water of purification. The word for water here is water, and it's used of transitionary things. Times of refreshing. You know, when you need to be conscious and confident going forward. You need to be refreshed. Times of refreshing from Nedah, the word here for purification, H5079, means impurity and filthiness. Menstruous, we have a woman here in the verse, and this word here is talking about menstruous. So yeah, you guess what's going on inside of her. Unclean things. This also includes idolatry and immorality. The verb means to flee and depart. It is for purifying from sin. That is what flees and departs during the ceremony there. Adonai Yahushua is tapping into what was already stored up by Yahuwah from the ancient people and preserved, so that the person who comes back to receive the favor of what was already established can do so during the transition. And he is that person. Yahushua is the clean man. So he lifted up his eyes, his ayin, his understanding of this, and gives thanks for it. See it down in the survey line. Also, look how this further lines up to show authenticity in his word. It even calls out oppression and identifies enemies distressing us at all our gates. All the reasoning and understanding he authorized in Scripture, seen here by this footnote. There's another footnote in here. Put the footnote. There it is. Footnote, literally impurities, what they put there. So an enemy did this. Literal is taking words in their usual or most basic sense without metaphor or allegory. They fixed something that was not even broken. We already read what Nida means. So this footnote is totally unnecessary. Just stressing you out. And all your reasoning and understanding. They're way back here messing with stuff. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, and the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. And I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this. The mark of the accusative is on these ashes. This is what is bestrewed now for this line of survey. Adonai begins to cover over the people standing by with the ashes of the heifer, the female cow, who, as you know, is red. Adam, this is the blood. This is identifying with the blood. The life of the flesh is in the blood. This is some belief that is needed concerning everlasting life. The verb of para means to frustrate and be broken and to crack through. This is the heifer here. We're looking at the female cow. He's trying to get some people to understand something. The mark of the accusative is in all these verses. Yahushua says, I know. It's him. I know the Torah and all the words that are written in this book. That's why he says, you always hear me. The one who gathers the ashes with the mark of the accusative on it, of the heifer, is the one that cracked through and got the understanding that is being revealed. That they are not clean in the house. They are not clean in the house. These are people who are standing by. They are the ones they are the ones whose clothes have to be washed and be unclean until evening. The mark of the accusative is on the clothes, the garments. It is necessary for believers to wash our clothes, if you believe. It affects your everlasting life. Otherwise, you can die as a believer, and because of not recognizing this practice, stay dead. The word for clothes means treachery and deceit. This is the garment of your character, something going on in the mind. You know about it. It is used indiscriminately. It does not discriminate. It's for every believer. The verb means to act unbelievingly and deceitfully. Okay, so the message is keep dead things in a dead place. From ashes you are, and to ashes you shall return. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. From dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Keep them in a respectable place there, in the ground. That's where you put those things. They don't belong in your home where you live. People have urns of ashes and dead people they keep in their home. Get that stigma of death away from you so you can go on with your life. Otherwise, you're going to experience death everlasting, because this is serious. Don't do it. Okay. Every devoted thing in Yisrael shall be yours, that you may fear this great and awesome name, Yahuwah Elohim. It shall be a kukwa olam to Bnei Yisrael and to the stranger who dwells among them. That they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Elazar, come forth. So this is pretty self-explanatory. A kukwa is an enactment. Washing the clothes and cleansing yourself from dead things is to be done by all believers, as I have mentioned in Adonai Yahushua. Do not be deceived, the enactment is forever. For all who believe, Elohim will prevail. And to the stranger who dwells among them. So it was for everybody. Everybody in the previous line. You see down here, these are the ones who got the understanding. They got the breakthrough. The ashes of the heifer. Okay? These are the ones who are going to be clean. Okay? And so it is for everyone. It shows a high degree of respect to the presence of Yahuwah if you do this. To which he says down in Yochanan that they may believe that you sent me. This is the clean man and not the red heifer. We have some people out here breeding cows now to get ready for some phenomenon they're going to do with regards to a red heifer. This is about belief. Yahushua is the clean man, as I mentioned, and not the red heifer. Now when he had said these things, that's when he cried out with a loud voice, Elazar, come forth. And so he will call you forth if you practice these things in him. Amen. Amen. Todah for watching with us here at Sarid. I strongly encourage you to begin to practice the things that Yahuwah has shown in his word. And go back and review the things that we talked about and hold fast to the way that Yahuwah has shown in his word. If you have not already, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching with us here at Sarid. Shabbat Shalom.